Giannis. I gotta be honest. I don't know if he was joking, poking fun. I don't think he was doing it disrespectfully at all. But I just wonder if, knowing the beef that's out there, if this is why he gave this answer. But anyway, the great Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was well on his way to a second MVP award. We'll see if they even have an award this year. He was on Instagram Live and taking questions from fans. And he was asked, who is the hardest player to guard in the NBA? Now, remember, Giannis is arguably the best defender in the league. And he said, Rob, after thinking about it, and it took him a while to come up with an answer, but he answered that it was James Harden. James Harden. And that's obviously a guy that he's had a lot of beef with, and Harden disrespected him when Giannis won the MVP last year, said it was all about narrative, which I don't even know what the narrative was, but he said that's what it was about. And then Giannis said, he didn't pick him. I'm picking Kemba Walker for the All-Star team because I need somebody that's going to pass the ball. Then Giannis said, I'm going at, in the All-Star game, our strategy at the end of the game when everybody was really playing hard was to give the ball to whoever Harden was guarding. And then Harden came back and said, hey, if I was 7 feet tall and all I had to do was run and dunk, I'd be able to do that too. I need to play with skill because I'm just normal size for an NBA player. And so it went back and forth. But Giannis, I don't know if this is an olive branch. I don't know if, he really thinks Harden is the toughest player in the NBA to guard, or I don't know if he was just kind of having some fun with it. And hey, I'm not trying to beef anymore with Harden. He's a great player. I'm going to throw him out there. I don't think it was disrespectful. But anyway, he said Harden is the toughest player in the NBA to guard. Rob Parker, do you agree?
I do. I think that Harden presents a lot of stuff. That's why, Chris, he has moves. He gets fouled a lot. He gets to the free throw line, right? So you have to worry about that.
Yep.
He can get to the basket. He can take a step back and knock down a far three. I mean, what can he do? I think he was being legit, being honest, and not playing any kind of game. Was just saying, I think this guy is tough to defend, and it's hard for me to argue with that.
Yeah, look. Harden is certainly an incredible offensive player, one of the all-time greats. And as you said, he is very tough to guard. And in addition to all his moves, his handle, his step back, his feints and slights, and the great jump shot, his ability to draw fouls is second to none. And as you said, he's a great free throw shooter. So that definitely makes him difficult to handle. But I'm going to throw a name out at you who I think is even tougher to guard than James Harden. And I don't know if I'm cheating a little bit because he didn't play this year. He's hurt. But I'm going to say Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's still in the league. So I'm going to say Durant is the hardest person in the league to guard.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I get that, Chris, and kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
And I think, don't you think that Giannis isn't thinking about him because of that?
Yeah, I agree. I think Giannis probably was just thinking about players played this season. I'll give you that.
I really do. I don't think that's a diss to Kevin Durant.
Would you go, if we're including everybody, Kyrie, Steph, Klay, all the guys that were hurt, would you say KD?
I would say KD because I think he's a hard cover. I mean, to be that height.
Yes.
To be that height, to be able to handle the ball, to be able to shoot the three, mid-range, what doesn't he do?
He's unstoppable. You just got to hope he misses.
I agree because we've seen, that signature shot, and I know KD's done a lot, but the one that shot in LeBron's face in the finals, I mean, that was just another example of just what his ability is. I mean, he didn't pull up.
That's just
he wasn't looking for anybody,
for
right? But you know what I mean. Like most guys couldn't make that shot or wouldn't take it.
Well, beyond that, I mean, just like you said, he can go off the dribble, he can shoot the three, he can shoot the mid range, he can post. I mean, and he's 7 feet tall, so you can play tremendous defense on him, and he's still going to get the shot off. He's unstoppable. I used to say this years ago. I used to say he's like a 7-foot version of Steph Curry because he doesn't shoot it quite as well as Steph, but he shoots it really well. And Steph can go off the dribble and handle and, finish at the basket and finish mid-range and in the paint and shoot the three, obviously. Durant can do all that too, but he's 7 feet tall. So I think Durant is the most unstoppable. Let me throw this at you. Who do you think is the most unguardable NBA player of all time? The toughest, the way Giannis was asked. Let's say the toughest NBA player to guard of all time.
I know it sounds cliche. I would say, I want to say Michael, but I'm going to say Will Chamberlain.
Yeah, you can definitely.
I mean, he was unstoppable. They had to rewrite the rules to stop him. That's the only reason I say Will Chamberlain.
Well, Rob G, we were talking about it before. He says Shaq, and both of those are very, good answers. Because how do you stop either one of them?
Right, and the other one is Kareem, who had a shot that was unblockable.
Right,
a shot that he knocked down at a great success rate.
Till he was like 42 years old.
I mean, he was unbelievable, to be honest. Unbelievable.
But all that said, I still am going to say Michael Jordan.
Yeah, it's hard for me to argue Chris.
Right. Okay? The one reason is because, as you said, you couldn't stop him. Shaq, you couldn't stop him. But obviously part of the strategy is to foul him. And when you foul both of them, neither was a great free throw shooter. Will was like 51% for his career. Shaq had to be somewhere around there. But Michael Jordan obviously didn't have their size, but he did, like we said about Durant. I mean, the fadeaway. Obviously, driving to the basket, he was unstoppable. Finishing at the rim, was a decent three-point shooter in that day and age. Developed a really good mid-range jump shot, turnaround, fadeaway, post-up. And then if you fouled him, he was an 84% career foul shooter. So I'm just going to say Jordan. Obviously, he's got the numbers where he's the highest, has the highest scoring average for a career ever. I'll go with him. None of these are bad answers, but I'm going to go with Jordan. But let's throw it out, Rob, to the callers. 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369. Two questions for you. Who is the toughest guy to guard, the hardest player to guard in today's NBA, including the guys who are injured? Durant, Steph, Klay, Kyrie, any of them. And who is the hardest to guard all time? The hardest NBA player to guard today and the hardest to guard all time. It's your turn to weigh in. Chris and Rob, the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio.
All right, let's kick it off with George in L.A. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How are you?
I agree with one part. I agree Kevin Durant's the toughest guy today when he's healthy, of course. And I'm going with Larry Bird for the old days because Larry could create. He could all around. He was a greater free-throw shooter than almost any of the other players, and he was just a pretty amazing guy.
He was amazing. I covered Larry Bird.
Nobody stopped him. I never saw Bird get stopped. But here's a little known fact, though. Larry Bird had 2 8-point games in his first finals.
That's unbelievable.
Isn't it? And that just shows you the difference in the day and age. I've always made this point, Rob. LeBron and all the players, but he's obviously the biggest name right now. That's why I say he's the most scrutinized athlete of all time. You never hear that about Bird. If LeBron had 2 8-point games in the finals, we'd be killing him, or people would be killing him.
Right.
You'd be killing him.
It'd be but it's also a different day, where you have to wait for the next day for the paper to read a column.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We just didn't have the coverage
We
back
didn't
then
have 24 hour. You remember, Chris, we talk about all the time. You used to have to call the sports phone to get scores, to get an out-of-town score.
When I started my career, I think I had humbler beginnings than you in my career because you started off writing right away, right?
Yeah, you were doing Agate.
I did Agate, but even before that, I was part-time at the Cleveland Plain Dealer. From 3 to midnight, me and a few other guys would sit in the sports room in the newsroom
Right.
and answer phones. And this is 1990.
Right.
So guys are calling up. Hey, me and my buddies are arguing. What was the starting lineup for the 76 Cavs?
It was unbelievable.
And if you didn't know it, you'd have to look it up. We'd look it up in the almanacs or whatever and give them the answer. But we were the internet back then.
That big time. People used to call in to get information.
Yep.
How about Tony in D.C.? You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Tony?
What's up, fellas? How you doing? Hope you're staying safe and blessed as usual.
Same to you and yours.
Doing our best. Yes, same to you.
The guy today, I would have to say, when he's healthy, and if he was healthy, all things equal, is Kevin Durant. There's nobody with his offensive skill set in this league today. Inside, outside, foul line, left hand, right hand. And from yesteryear, I was leaning towards Kareem, but then Chris trying to convince me, Michael Jordan, he was just complete offensively. There's nothing this man couldn't do. If you challenged him, he would show you. So MJ of yesterday and KD of today.
Yeah,
hard to argue with those.
His 55-point game, the double nickel at Madison Square Garden against the Knicks when he came back from baseball was on last night, and I watched some of that. And,
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
I
mean, it was just crazy. I mean, his jump shot was ridiculous. And that's not what he's known for.
No, and remember, though, when he first came in, he was a dunker and all that. Oh, he can't shoot. And Michael became a prolific jump shooter.
Yep.
Douglas in Cleveland, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Douglas?
How you doing?
Doing
What's
good.
up, man?
Mr. Broussard, I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to say LeBron and LeBron.
All right, explain.
So no free
LeBron's
throws are
obviously
involved.
great and tough to handle, but go ahead.
Well, he took two different teams to two different championships. The block he did on San Antonio and won that one. And that block he did.
But we talking about the toughest to guard. Like the block, that's obviously a defensive play.
And a
We're
great
not
play.
debating his greatness. But you think he's the hardest player ever to guard in NBA
defend?
history?
Yeah, but the three assists, double rebounds. He's about to take over Kareem in a minute.
All right, Douglas, thanks. We're not talking about lifetime achievement, though.
Right.
Mark in Sacramento, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio.
What's going on, gentlemen?
What's happening, man?
Yeah, pretty good. Hey, I want to thank you guys through this tough time. There's not a whole lot to listen to and watch, and every day you guys bring them some really good subjects and get some good guests like Ice Cube on to kill this time for us sports fans, and we appreciate you guys doing that because this is not hard to do without not a lot of sports out there, and you guys do it every day. I appreciate that.
Thank you, man.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate
it ain't that easy.
We
Rob
definitely
G
do.
is a great producer. I'm going to give him props.
Real quick, the best is Kevin Durant. I don't think that's a question. The ball handling, the shooting, stop on the dime, the getting in the open court, it's Kevin Durant. I don't think that's close. But I'm sorry, Chris. You said the most unguardable. It's Shaq and Wilt, and it ain't even close. Those guys had guys hanging on them every play. You had to triple team them every play. They changed the rules for Wilt. They widened the lane for Wilt. Man, I'm a Jordan fan, but I guess I'm old enough to be able to see Wilt at the end and be able to see Shaq up close. You're talking about an unstoppable man. You couldn't guard those guys. All you could do was foul them. And you better be glad that they couldn't shoot free throws because you couldn't do anything else.
And that's my only point because you're right. I mean, they're so huge. They were athletic too.
And they used to get fouled.
Couldn't shoot free throws.
Right. So that hurt them.
I got you. Yeah, you guys keep it up, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, my man.
We're going to squeeze in Felicia. Felicia from Detroit, from Michigan. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Felicia?
She's usually against me, so.
For you.
What's that?
Hi, Angry Rob. I call you Angry Rob because the poll is still not available.
Oh, wow.
You know what?
Wow. She
There we
knows
go.
you well.
You
know
might
what?
need to fly to. You might need to fly to Amsterdam because they got the girls inside the cages, inside the glass cages, and
So you
can throw
can't
the money
touch 'em.
Yeah, but you don't need to touch. You just tell them put on the glass. Anyway,
Oh, I got it. Put the ass on the glass.
Look at you.
Yes. But, this is going to be a controversial
Don't encourage
statement.
him, Felicia.
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm like you because I'm like you, Chris. Actually, I'm on Sunday. I'm at the pulpit. Anyway, you know what? I'm gonna say something, and this might not be a popular pick, and you might even look at each other like, "What?" I'm gonna say Klay Thompson. The reason why I say Klay Thompson is because any night he's expected to be a baby Steph Curry, but he sometimes is greater than Steph Curry, and at the same time he has a better defense than in his IQ. His IQ, I think he's underrated because of the profile of Steph Curry. Then you have you had Iguodala, you had Kevin Durant, and everything else. I think he's kind of unguardable and everything else. Now, of all time, Michael Jordan, of course. And I would love for you guys to talk about the greatest defensive player of all time. I think it's Dennis Rodman because when he was in Shaq, he could.
Did we lose her?
Bye, Felicia. Sorry about that. We lost her.
She made a good point about Rodman. I mean, I'd have to think about that. I don't know if I'm ready to call him the best defender ever, but he's up there.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. No,
right?
he was tremendous.
Yeah, he guarded Karl Malone in those finals, and he could guard virtually every position because he was so strong and he was quick. Klay, obviously I wouldn't say he's the most unguardable. She's got a point. He's a great shooter. I did think about saying Steph just because he runs around so much. You know what I mean? And that can wear guys down, and he's all over the court. But then he's been kind of shut down. If you have a defender like a Matthew Dellavedova or something who's just, his sole job is just to stay with Steph, don't worry about scoring or anything, then they can probably do it.
Yeah, or if it's a big shot at the end of the game,
Steph.
It. You don't even have to worry about it.
That's so played out.
You don't even have to worry about a defender. It'll take place by itself.
Don't take away from Steph's greatness. He's the lead Lakers writer for Bleacher Report and an NBA TV capologist, our man Eric Pincus. Eric, how you doing?
Not bad under the circumstances. Life at home, just like everyone else. Trying to keep myself occupied and spend some good time with the family.
Yes. I think we all have pretty much the same day now.
No doubt.
You wrote a great column for Bleacher Report about how you think a centralized location, maybe if you bring all the teams, the playoff teams in the NBA to Las Vegas in a centralized location, they may be able to finish out the season and the playoffs without fans. Just kind of explain your proposal.
Well, I started with the CDC recommendation that you don't have more than 50 people together in an event. And I think they've even come down even harder on that since. But there's no real way to get an NBA game off with 50 people because you just have the players, and then you have coaches, you have training staff, you have a team doctor, you have all the statisticians and refs. And broadcast. It grows very quickly to too many people, right? Yeah. And then imagine multiplying that times the 30 teams. It's not feasible in this world, which we're clearly learning. This is not like a 2-week shutdown of the country or whatever it is of each area. This may take a while. This could bleed easily into the summer, and you can't start this NBA season back up only to have players get sick. It's just not safe. And so, to me, the thought would be the best case, of course, and it may not come to it may be that they only do the playoffs because it becomes too difficult because you're cutting it right in half almost from 30 teams to 16. But if you can get to Las Vegas, where the league has a lot of experience because of Summer League, because of the G League Showcase, which is something they do with the minor league every December, you can potentially create like an NBA biosphere, like a biodome. Like everyone is locked into the Mandalay Bay. They could set up some courts in the Mandalay Bay, or maybe they could use the arena that they have there, the Thomas Mack Center. But they've used for the G League Showcase, they just used the Mandalay Bay, and they set up these big convention areas with I think 2 game courts and like 4 practice courts. And you may only need 1 game court and set up 6 practice courts and bring everyone there. Bring everybody is put into this hotel, a beautiful hotel, including all the staff to support those people. No one goes out. Everyone stays in. You have to quarantine and get everyone through a basic waiting period to make sure everyone's healthy. Once everyone's clear, get the season back on.
So the only problem is, what if somebody isn't clear? What if a team doctor? What if another player? What if a coach? I mean, I hear your point on trying to figure it out. I just don't think that's feasible either, because
they're in the hotel with them.
No,
I'm saying put them in the hotel, isolated in the hotel. Everyone's isolated for a couple of weeks, which is crazy. And then after that period of time, or however long you need to make sure that everyone who's been put in that hotel has been isolated for long enough that you know that there's no virus. They're not going outside. You're meeting the catering trucks to bring in, the food that you need to, or whatever, or the laundry, whatever it is that needs to come into the building. You're meeting and putting through strict testing to make sure it's clear. And the NBA we're talking about, what, if they lose $1 billion or whatever,
right?
We can only estimate, we can guess $2 billion, we can guess $800 million. It depends on the degrees. Like, are you talking about no playoffs? Are we talking about obviously no fans? I think that money's lost already. But if you can recoup some of that, then I think they're going to be willing to go through some, players inclusive, some pretty extreme measures to make sure this happens.
Have you heard anything from the league in reference to your proposal, or just anything else they're thinking? I know they're trying to throw out every scenario possible.
Right. I mean, and there's that's the ultimate is that Adam Silver's been great as a commissioner in being open-minded and trying new things and not sticking with tradition for tradition's sake. But this is obviously unprecedented. I haven't spoken to the league directly. I've spoken to people who work for various teams, and I've spoken to some other people on the player side of the coin who have told me this is definitely one of the many considerations that they're talking about. It might be 2 locations, it might be 1 location, but the idea being limit as much as you can everything. I mean, isolate everybody. Try to reduce the amount of risk to as low as possible. And there's risk in everything we do in life, but this is risk worth taking. They just have to figure out how to do it.
Jeff Van Gundy has already said that he believes that the NBA will end up canceling the season. The reason that the NBA is willing to bastardize its season and do whatever it takes is this just a financial thing from the standpoint they'd already lost money from China? This would be a colossal loss if this season somehow, some way, and they don't get the TV money that was laid out for them, or had to give it back, or however the deal is, or not paid to them. Is that really what is the biggest thing behind this? I
mean, there's so many factors. For one, the opportunity. There's a human element. We want everyone to be healthy, and everyone's going through a very difficult time with this. Some people far worse than what I've gone through. I haven't lost anyone, and I'm hoping that and I'm praying that everyone out there can get through this healthy. So we have to honor that there are more important things than basketball. But people are in their homes, and to be able to be both take advantage to a degree, but also be a leader of the revival of the economy, of getting people back enjoying life in a different way other than streaming Netflix. It's like it's watching old games on YouTube or on NBA TV, which is great, but there's obviously a huge financial component, but there's the tradition of it. The players, the money's going to come out, a portion of it from the players. It's pretty sizable. There's language in the collective bargaining agreement where the players can be docked about, it's a little bit over 1% per of their salaries per game that's canceled, including playoff games. So we're talking about, like, LeBron would lose about $400,000 a game. If they cancel like 17 games, that's a lot of money. We're not talking a little bit of money. So of course there's the money aspect, but more importantly, I mean, as much as players, everyone, this is a business, but these guys love playing. I mean, this is their passion. You can't become, in most cases, you can't become the best players in the world just because you're doing it for the money. You have to do it because you love it and really care for it. And maybe that doesn't represent every single player, but by and large, all the all-stars that you see, the best players in the league, most of them love this game, and they want to get back, and the league loves the game, the teams love the game. So, there's money, but there's also a lot more to it.
We're joined by NBA writer and capologist Eric Pincus. Eric, I got to ask you this. I know that the max deals are based on a percentage of the cap. So you got the 25%, 30%, and the ultra max is 35% of the cap, right? For each individual player.
Yes, sir.
If the cap goes down, just for numbers' sake, say it goes from 110 to 90 or whatever because of the lost games this season, will like a player that has a contract for say $40 million a year, it's a max contract, will that drop? Will that 40 possibly become 30 or whatever because it's now has to be 35% of the cap?
It's a complex question, and it's not a simple answer. I would say that in most cases, the contracts themselves that are already on the table do not change, except for the players who just signed extensions, like Ben Simmons, Jamal Murray, guys who signed max extensions off of their rookie deal. Those are in their contracts. It just says max, and it's based on what the max will be this next summer. And if the cap drops 10 million, 20 million, or who knows, maybe more, they could lose $5 million each year, or $6 million a year over 5 years, like $30 million loss. That's significant when you sign that contract in July and then you find out the next July that you're making a whole lot less.
Right.
The league takes back, or rather deducts, 10% of everyone's check day to day. So like every check, they get checks typically on the 1st and the 15th. And let's say you have a $10 million contract. And I'm going to simplify as much as possible. The league is going to take back $1 million of that. This is just how the league works. So you get $9 million of your $10 million. And then at the end of the year, they look at all the numbers. They do it, both the league and the union look everything over, and they come to an agreement on where the numbers are. And if the numbers are right, then the players get all their money back. If it's not right, then the league keeps it. And typically the players get most of it back, if not all. Sometimes no, sometimes yes. But with this crisis, the players are on hook for half of the losses. That's really how it works. It's based on revenue. Right. And if revenue drops, the players need to give it back somehow. So I do think we'll see in the next few days.
How, like you said, the players that already have the contracts, like a LeBron, a Kevin Durant, guys like that, I'm wondering how they're going to be able to get their whole entire contract if the league loses all this money.
Well, they're going to lose the 10% already. And then what would happen is that they would, in theory, still get their contracts, but it's their next contract. So someone like Anthony Davis, technically, if the cap drops a ton, he's better off signing an extension before the end of the season. So if they cancel the season, before the next season starts, he can take an extension that would not be enough under normal circumstances, right? He's planning on opting out. He would sign as a free agent. But if he signs an extension, he can get a 20% raise. That's going to be more than the max, which is okay. You can take more than the max to a degree. So there are complications. There are limitations. Even that, because he's signing the extension beforehand. So, it's all about timing. It's going to impact everyone individually. It's not going to impact someone like LeBron unless they need to, they may artificially prop the cap up next year so that it's not so dramatic. And it kind of, I don't know if you know the term cap smoothing. It was something that was discussed in 2016 that they didn't do. That was because the cap was going up too much. And they wanted to do it, and the union said no. Maybe they say yes to something similar, and maybe they just say, okay, we'll push the cap up, but we'll do a 20% escrow, or we'll do a 30% escrow.
All right. We gotta go now. But I appreciate that knowledge, Eric. That's like you said, it's not a simple thing, and I know the league is going over everything. Thank you for being on top of it, and we thank you for your information.
All right, guys. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Be safe.